What an exciting E3 event.
And to take a page out of Big N's book, we're dedicating this month's podcast primarily to Super Smash Bros. Ultimate.
We are totally not doing that.
I guess you're right. I wouldn't get to talk about Mario Tennis Aces if we did that.
We've certainly got that and a whole lot more to discuss on this month's episode of On the Shelf. Welcome back to an exciting episode of On the Shelf. As usual, I'm Sol.
And I'm Cyrix. We're going to start the day off right with a hot cup of humble tea. So here goes.
After our last episode, I was reminded by a couple of folks about cloud saves for the Vita. And yes, the Vita required PlayStation Plus for cloud saves. I should have been clearer and mentioned that cloud saves on the Switch will be the only way to back up your saves, whereas the Vita could at least allow you to back them up via USB, with the key distinction that the Switch is the only platform that gives you absolutely no free alternative. If you want saves, you pay.
And apparently a GBA version of F-Zero, which I actually own, was the last F-Zero game. But in my defense, I did say I believe the GameCube. But once it was brought to our attention, I looked into it, and GP Legend came out several months later, and Climax also came out the following year, which was 2004. We crossed the 500 follower mark on Twitter. We want to thank everyone who follows us, not only there, but specifically thank you for our loyal listeners. We appreciate all the kind words and even the corrections, Phineas.
Our goal is to continue to bring you quality discussion, news, and interviews. Thank you for being a part of something we're building for the community.
So before we jump into some major news that came out of E3 and a little bit before it with the whole Pokemon thing that's going on, I figured I would go ahead and lighten the mood a bit and talk about a gift that I received for Father's Day. See, I've been requesting a game for the Super Famicom for a long time for any friends that I have that go over to Japan, and none of them have come through. But my 3-year-old son outdid them all with the help of his mother, and I have a copy of Tenchi Muyo Game Hen for the Super Famicom, complete in box. And I'm super excited about it. I've played it a little bit, not this copy of it, but previously I've played a little bit, and I absolutely love the kind of game. And Tenchi is probably one of my favorite animes. You can hate on me all you want, you anime lovers, but I love Tenchi. And I'm looking forward to playing this game and not understanding a word of the Japanese, but you can hate on it all you want. It's a great game to me. So that's just a little extra bit of news, kind of to lighten the mood, because we are a collecting podcast. We may focus primarily on the Switch, but in the end, our collection spans more than just one system, obviously.
Back to the system that we are usually talking about with the Switch. So Pokémon just got a massive shot in the arm of activity. On May 29th, merely 2 days after we released our last podcast, a press conference was held in Japan announcing 3 major pieces of news for Pokémon and an update on the mainline series. Up first was the announcement of a brand new free-to-play game, Pokémon Quest, for both the Switch and smartphones. Pokémon Quest is a top-down collecting action RPG set on Tumblecube Island, where the Pokémon are all cube-shaped a la Crossy Road. Pokémon Quest was made available immediately in the eShop after the end of the press conference. Have you played it?
I have played it. I'm not a huge fan of it. Because generally these games, these free-to-play games, by nature, are like their time sinks. Like you're going to have a lot of time that you need to wait. They have done some interesting things that allow you to do like little side quests that will replenish your time that you have to play the game. Like you have a certain amount of turns to take. So that is a good way to get people in without forcing them to pay money. Of course, there are money options. And they're not super expensive, and they give you like cosmetic stuff in the game and then additional time and ways to attract more Pokemon. But it's not my kind of game. It does play like an automated RPG. They're running around. They attack set enemies. You can pick which attacks they use against the enemies, and you can like build your team up based on what Pokemon you have available and what power blocks or health blocks you want them to hold. And the different stones have different abilities based on the quality of the stone as well. So there is some neat intricacies into it. I did dump probably an hour or two into it, but it wasn't enough to keep my attention. There is another free-to-play game that's kind of along the same lines that we can talk about later when we get into the E3 stuff that I actually am more in tune with than this one.
So next up was news of a pair of new games that are crossing the boundaries of the Switch and Pokemon Go. Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Pokemon Let's Go Eevee. These games are a bit of a mix between the mainline series and Go, and they're to feature the original 151 Pokemon. What makes this stand apart in my eyes is that you will be able to trade Pokemon between Go from your smartphone and Let's Go on the Switch, which will be something new to the platform. Let's Go is also made available for play during this year's E3. What do you think about that?
I like it. I like the direction they're going. I'm a huge Gen 1 fan. I always make the joke among the Pokemon enthusiasts that there's only 151 Pokemon. And that's just the way I like it. Blue and yellow were major parts of my childhood. I did enjoy silver for a little bit, but beyond that, I never really got into the additional generations. And the stuff they're adding to this makes it that much more attracting to me. The real big thing about this, though, is that they're bringing Pokemon Go back to the forefront. Pokemon Go never went away. People always assume that it's not a powerhouse anymore. They're like, oh, it's dead, it's dying. But they've added so much to that game, and there's communities built around it. There's entire websites dedicated to maps, so you can find communities and discords that allow you to interact with other players of this game. And they've expanded out all the generations, which is okay. Obviously, the Gen 1s are the only ones that are going to be able to cross over into Pokemon Let's Go. But the game is going to get a little resurgence. It's going to be what the Gen 1 people have been looking for. You know, the game never really died. It has 60 million players worldwide, and it's still something like the 7th or 8th highest grossing game on the app stores. So it was never really gone, but now we're starting to see more people come back to it, especially people like me who are Gen 1 enthusiasts are now coming back to Pokemon. I re-downloaded it. I'm not going to lie. I re-downloaded it and started playing it. It's great. It's a draw back into it. It's reminding me, it's giving me that nostalgia factor. I'm really looking forward to it more so than I am another core game. Like this is my bread and butter. I've been waiting for this for a while, and I'm loving it and eating up all the news I can about it.
So the last thing on this piece that I kind of wanted to mention, I'm going to bring it back again, was that whole trade piece of moving the Pokemon between one type of device and another. And this is kind of the first time we've seen that. They've revealed the capability, I guess. We all had figured out that was a possibility based on the hardware that's in there and modern day technology. But this is a confirmation. It can do that.
Yes, I saw that, and I think it's going to be a nice little feature. Like I said, that's kind of their way to bring Pokemon Go back into the relevant limelight. The game never died, and this is just their way of saying, hey, you know, we can give you more of what you liked before. And you just got to come back and see. It's going to attract back the people who are wanting to get Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee, so they can do transfer overs. It's going to get back the people who quit originally, and now they're going to see all the stuff that's been added to the game. So the being able to transfer between the Switch games and the mobile game is a brilliant tactic to get people playing both games. And it hooked me, and I know plenty of other people who, if you ask them, you know, did you download Pokemon Go? They're going to tell you, yeah, they're trying it out again. And this was a great move by Nintendo, and I can't wait to see how far they take it, especially with new core games and stuff coming out eventually. I can't wait to see if there's going to be some sort of interaction. Maybe Go gets bumped up, because I think Go currently only has 4 gens, and the next core game is going to be 8th gen. So we're going to have to see how they're going to have any interaction going forward, and I think it's going to be great.
The third reveal, and probably the thing that I'm most interested in, being a bit of a gadget head, is the Pokeball controller. This little Pokeball-shaped Joy-Con seems like quite the creative controller. With the Let's Go games, the Pokeball has motion controls, HD rumble, it lights up, it has sound to mimic various Pokemon trapped in the device. Even more impressive is that you'll be able to use it with Pokemon Go. The Pokemon Company and Nintendo are really taking this to the next level.
I will listen to some people who got their hands on one and played with it, there's actually 2 safety functions, like a wrist strap and like a thumb strap. So that's kind of neat that they're getting people into using it, because the motion controls behind it are going to be imitating throwing it either overhanded or underhanded. And the entire game can be played with just that controller. Think about a Pokemon game. It's nothing but a series of menus. So you're running around and you battle stuff that you come across, but you can basically play the whole game with one hand, which is what this device is designed to do. And I think it's a genius ploy. Yeah, it's very gimmicky. Don't get me wrong. I've ordered one because I ordered a bundle. I'm not planning on getting a second one. The bundles didn't appeal to me enough to get a second one, but I did want one just to play with it. And the neat little feature, especially for Gen 1 enthusiasts such as myself, is they announced that the Pokeballs will come preloaded with Mew.
Right. And they even showed that off with the little shake. Reggie was holding one of them and he shook it and you could hear a little sound in there.
Yes.
So lastly, and probably actually the least exciting aspect about that press conference, was a note that the mainline Pokemon RPG is still under development and is currently targeted for the second half of 2019.
Yeah, so we're going to get a Gen 8 core game, which is what people kind of expected. So we knew that was coming. We didn't know when, but they gave us a whole bunch of filler between now and then. So they're not going to have any problem keeping the hype train going, I don't think.
And I could only imagine that the Pokeball will work with that too. They're not going to just completely abandon the Pokeball at that point. I keep going back to these little things like introduction of the Pokeball, introduction of the crossing the platforms between the Switch and cellular. It's these types of bridges that the Pokemon Company and Nintendo are building to really kind of draw all focus in and to say, hey, if you want the full experience, not only do you want this and that, you gotta bring it all. You gotta come to the Switch if you haven't already. You gotta pick up that software. You have to go out and you have to get this Pokeball, because not only does it look exactly like a little Pokeball, but it actually is functional in these games, and not just one of them. They're gonna probably do this from here forward with at least these majority of games. So I think that between what we've seen in that press conference and what we know about Pokemon, Nintendo and the Pokemon Company are really bringing it. They're really doing the best thing here that they can. I know there's some people disappointed about a couple of aspects. I want to talk about that. The first is just simply that they pushed that announcement of the mainline game being out so far. I think that they've done enough. They've given you just enough other stuff to bridge that gap, but I'm sure there's people that are going to be really upset about that.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me so much, but I know that there are people who, especially the older crowd, especially the younger crowd, the younger crowd, the ones who didn't play Gen 1, so they're kind of like a footnote to them. They don't want to go backwards, they want to go forward, so they don't understand why there'd be so much focus on a older version of the game before giving them a new core version, because they want the newest to come out. So I can understand it from their perspective, but the Switch is for everybody, and this is going to draw. Pokemon is a console seller, so some people who are on the fence and are waiting for a Pokemon game, they're going to buy a Switch now. The people who didn't even care about Pokemon coming to the Switch, but are old school Gen 1 enthusiasts, now they have a reason to buy a Switch. And on top of that, you can share your childhood with, your kids. Like, my son's going to get to play Gen 1 Pokemon without having to mess around with an original Game Boy, which I have, and if he wants to play it, he can. But this is a new way, especially because you can play 2-player on the same Switch. Each of you with a Joy-Con or the Pokeball, however you want to play it. So that's also a neat little feature that's going to attract some people. So they're doing this. This is calculated. This isn't something that they're doing. This isn't something that's going to ruin them. This is only going to do good for their brand. I guarantee it.
There is one aspect of it that has gotten a lot of flack. The fact that the Let's Go games will require the use of motion control. Now, I personally think that if you have the Pokeball, that's not a problem. I even think that you slap one of the Joy-Cons out and you throw that around, fine. That'll do it. But there are a lot of people upset about that. They'd love to be able to just sit there relaxingly, kind of hold the Joy-Con or a Pro controller, one hand and move around, or in a more traditional sense, sit there and play it. I don't necessarily know that that's a huge deal for me, a deal breaker. I'm definitely going to try the game out, mainly because I want to try the little Pokeball out. I'm super excited about that, more so than I probably should be. But I just think that that's a lot of people are making a big deal about that.
Yeah, it's I don't know. Are we guaranteed that it's only going to be motion controls? Have they confirmed that?
That's what they've said. And they even explained why that's the case. It had to do with immersion and the experience, etc. But I don't know that that's a problem. I feel like that can be a problem for disabled gamers. And that's the one argument that I've seen. It would be great if they would create an accessibility mode. And then the folks that just want to use that should be able to use that.
Yeah, I feel like they should be prompted when you start it up. Do you wish to use motion controls or no? Like Mario Kart used to do on the Wii U. Like, do you want to use motion controls? No. Then you're okay. You can just use the gamepad. It's fine.
That's the one legit argument about that would be accessibility options.
No, I totally agree with that.
So aside from Pokemon, there's only one other major thing that happened. I mean, you might have heard of it. E3?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
No clue?
No.
So during E3, we got a chance to watch and listen to a lot of different press conferences. First up, the first news on the roster for the Switch comes from EA, who brings us FIFA 19. Of all the sports games on the Switch, FIFA is definitely one of the most well-received, and it looks like they're going to keep the series coming on our favorite platform with this next release. For soccer fans, one piece of news to note about this is that EA has acquired the UEFA Champions League license previously owned by Konami. This means that the FIFA title will be near monopolistic with its real-world soccer licensing. The title is expected to hit shelves on September 28th.
EA is one. There's only two presenters, two companies that I didn't watch, and EA was one of them. And it's not because of my personal boycott of EA, but it's just that they're known for their sports titles over everything else, and Battlefield. And I wasn't interested in Battlefield, and I'm not really interested in their sports games. I would like to have seen Madden come to the Switch, and they said that Madden, it's not out of the question that Madden could come to the Switch, but it's not coming this year. So that was the letdown for me. FIFA, I'm not the biggest fan of the FIFA series. I understand that it's a solid game, and the previous iteration is one of the better sports titles on the system, of which there were only like 3 or 4 anyway. So it's nice that they're continuing to support the Switch. I do appreciate that. I just wish it was Madden over FIFA, honestly.
You and a lot of people out there. I will say that during YouTube Live at E3, there was some discussion with Cam Weber from EA Sports about the Switch. He stated during a discussion about FIFA that EA was working on feature parity for the Switch with other platforms, specifically noting how it might be a different game engine, but they're working on the parity for what he called an emerging platform for them. And I thought that phrasing was really interesting, an emerging platform. You could read that a couple of different ways, like maybe it didn't sell as well as some of the others, although that would be contrary to what we've seen in most titles. Most titles right now are selling better on the Switch than anything else. What does that mean, an emerging platform? Does that mean that they are paying more attention to it? Does that mean that they're going to invest more in it? Does that mean that they don't know enough about it yet, even though they've developed, some stuff? I don't really know what he was trying to say there.
My personal take on that is probably that they're seeing that the Switch is a real contender.
I hope so.
Obviously, the FIFA 18 obviously sold well on the Switch. It was very well received, and it sold well. Like I
said, it was one of the better sports games on the platform in the first year.
Yeah, because the only sports games we got were FIFA, NBA 2K, and RBI Baseball, because I don't count WWE, because even if that is considered a sport, that game is an atrocity. So 3. I said 3 or 4, 3. There were 3 main sports games physically on the Switch. You could argue NBA Playgrounds if you want to, but those are the 3 like heavy hitters. Those are the ones they felt comfortable enough and confident enough to put physically on the Switch. And FIFA was probably, even though FIFA is not the one that I enjoyed the most, FIFA was probably the one that is considered the most polished. So I understand they're going to bring FIFA 19 as a result of that, and it's it's an emerging market for them. So I think that's what he meant, is that the Switch is obviously doing well. It's making them money. They see it only going up. I mean, we saw the addition of Fortnite, and that has cross-platform. So they're probably seeing lots of things they can do with the Switch going forward. So they're very interested. They've got their ears to the tracks, and they're just trying to see what's going on. I feel like we're going to see a little bit more love from EA.
I want you to hold on to that thought, because we're going to cycle back around towards the end of this about something that sort of pertains to that. But put a pin in that.
Okay.
Between EA and Bethesda, there was another conference. It doesn't have anything to do with the Switch, but I do want to touch on it. Microsoft. Although there were obviously no announcements for the Switch during the Microsoft conference, I will mention that they had a rather decent conference. Nothing groundbreaking, but at least they had quite a bit of games that they showed. Mm-hmm. And that's not to say that we won't end up with some of those, but I'd say they did a pretty passable job during their conference.
Yeah, they had. They started off by letting people know how many exclusives they had and how many world premieres they had, and the numbers were fairly large. I was very impressed with what they brought to the table. I don't play my Xbox One enough to stare down the screen, but they had my attention for a few things. And obviously they're bringing a new Halo, which is a console seller in itself. So that was a big to do, but they did come out.
The Halo to end all Halos, maybe.
Yeah, the Halo to end all Halos.
The way that they're setting it up, it could be the last Halo we see, because it's forever, right? Yeah. Halo Infinite.
Yeah, and they're also bringing new content for Sea of Thieves. And speaking of rare games, how excited were you to see Battletoads?
Oh, that was probably the being this retro fan, that was the highlight of the entire Microsoft conference for me. When they posted that, I was like, oh, they are doing that. They are bringing that. And I really freaking wish we had that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want that on the Switch.
And now you can unironically call GameStop and ask them if they have Battletoads.
Yeah. And it's great. Don't get me wrong. I guess I'm just saying congratulations, Microsoft, on doing that, on pulling that off. We didn't get to see anything of it. It was literally just the logo and a couple of sentences, and that was it. But they did that little tease. They did that little graphic tease. But outside of that, no gameplay was shown. We just know that Battletoads is coming to the Xbox platform. So. Yeah.
Bethesda did something similar at the end of their conference as well.
Speaking of Bethesda, they were a bit weak on Switch properties, but we did see a listing for Wolfenstein Youngblood after. The trailer didn't give much. It's obviously just another game in the line of Wolfenstein games, which I love. I've been a fan of Wolfenstein forever.
It's is it the new blood? It's the old blood. It's that version of the game for Wolfenstein 2. That was the game for Wolfenstein 1. This is the game for Wolfenstein 2.
And there is no indication from the trailer which platforms it would be released on, other than the fact that the day after the presser, a listing shows up at GameStop's website showing it for the Switch, listed at only $29.99, which is great.
Yeah, because it's just it's like a little side mission filler game. So that's why they did that.
So what else did you see out of that Bethesda comment? I know there's one thing you're going to want to mention about that.
Yes, that is the free-to-play Fallout Shelter did come to Switch. That's what I want to talk about.
Let me share my thoughts on Fallout Shelter. Because when it came out for the smartphone, I pulled it down, being a fan of the Fallout series, a far back fan. I'm not super intimate with the games. I'll tell you, New Vegas is easily my favorite of what I've played so far. 3, 4, it's, but honestly, I get interested in the the whole lore and the series and being able to, put yourself in that situation. I'm really excited about what 76 is going to be. I think that has some great potential where they're lining that story up. But Fallout Shelter was boring. I mean, you talk about a time sink. I didn't get anything out of it. I played it for a while and I felt like it was just the most boring cell phone game I've played.
That's the thing though. Like it's so, we talked about Pokemon Quest earlier and how I didn't like it, but for some reason Fallout Shelter, I don't know if it's because it's more serious and it's more resource management, but I connected more with it. Now I'm not sitting here for hours at a time managing everything. I'll do something for like maybe 45 minutes to an hour and then I'll leave the game to its own to take care of the stuff that it does in the background. And so I do that, but the game just like the controls are a little bit clunky because you're basically moving a mouse cursor more or less with the stick. So that's a little bit clunky for me if you're playing that way. You're not using touch controls or anything like that. So that is the one drawback for me, but it's a nice little filler game just to kill a little bit of time here and there for me. And I didn't enjoy it when I played it before on like PC, but I'm enjoying it now, and I think it fits really well on the Switch, honestly, especially being free.
The free thing is good. In fact, that's something that we've just recently started to see on the Switch, right? They've just added a handful of these, fairly decent quality. Because I'm not going to say that Fallout Shelter is not a good quality game. It's a good quality game. It's just a boring good quality game to me. But I like the fact that they've put some of these out on the Switch rather than it just being a cell phone game. And I know we've gotten some of these other cell phone conversion games. You look at Voez, that's, coming yet again for the Switch, even though it's been released in like every other region.
Gear Club, Musinks.
Yeah, that's going to happen. It's a device with a Tegra chip and it's got a touch screen and it's 7-inch screen. So this is natural that anybody that's going to complain about that didn't see it for what it was. It's going to happen. And the better ones, I welcome. Gear Club wasn't bad. It's not like, it's not going to be your staple racing game. You're not going to, sit there and max everything out on that game unless you just happen to be a real big fan of Gear Club. But games like that are perfectly welcome. Germany saw Tiny Troopers XL. And that's a mobile game, and it's going to work really well on the Switch, especially when you add physical controls to where appropriate, especially if done right. So I guess I'm just only lukewarm at best with something like Fallout Shelter.
I think games like that, though, like the mobile ports like that, kind of led the way for some of the other things that came out. Like, as mentioned before, Fortnite has come out now. And I really feel like Fortnite was ported to the Switch after the success of it on mobile. And
more than likely,
I feel like the mobile, they found that it worked well on mobile, and they're like, well, if it works well on mobile, we can make it work on the Switch. And that's what they did.
And I would imagine if they'd done the work for that already, that most of the code came over pretty easily, considering we're talking a Tegra chip. So after Bethesda was Devolver Digital. Now, Double D came out with their rather off-color and super entertaining version of their E3 press conference, and it was glorious. Even if not everything was coming for the Switch, it'd be difficult to explain what my friend Pedro, Blood, Bullets, and Bananas really is without using some really painted phrasing. But picture bullet time anarchy with mixed with crouching tiger, hidden dragon movement, and ballet, and maybe you get close to what this is, but maybe not.
The video on that looked really interesting. The frying pan ricocheting bullets, and it really caught your attention with how off the wall it was.
Right, the physics just look crazy.
That's definitely going to be a selling point for that game, is how crazy it looked, because people are going to be like, oh, I've got to try this game. It's so crazy. So that's going to be the big seller. Devolver is the other one I didn't really watch. I did go back and watch the video for my friend Pedro, but I didn't watch their actual, because their segments are
they're
always
off the wall.
Yeah, their segments are always pre-recorded and off the wall, and it's just like I wasn't in the mood for silliness at the time. So,
well, here's the thing: if you go back and watch last year's presentation, and then turn around and watch this, there's actually a continuing narrative that we will pick up next year as well. They have this side story to their press conference, which is also kind of interesting when you look at it from a story perspective and not just what the games are. And I think that whoever thought of that, of doing that, it's brilliant. It's a great way to get some extra attention to your press conference, even if you're not standing physically on a stage out there at E3.
And Devolver has their own publishing branch too. They publish through the same publisher. Is it Strictly Limited or Special Reserve? Special Reserve, right?
Yeah.
We may very well get physical copies of the games that they showcased. It'd be kind of interesting to see if we get a physical copy of My Friend Pedro. I think I'd really enjoy having that game.
I would too. I thought it looked great.
Yeah, I've not played a whole lot of eShop games, so I don't know that I will play this one if it doesn't get a physical.
Now, Devolver, they wrapped theirs, and coming up right after that was Square Enix. The Square Enix conference was a serious letdown for Switch owners, and not by a small margin. A new trailer for Octopath Traveler was shown during the Screen Expresser. We've already gotten a rather good look at the game via previous trailers and the demo that came out a while back.
And we also got a new demo released during the conference as well, though.
And I'm looking forward to playing this on July 13th, but I really wish there was more to this conference.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that a lot of their fans were hoping for. They delivered for the other platforms, obviously. They have some new stuff coming out. I'd be interested to see if maybe we might get the standalone game that's coming out in the Life is Strange universe, the Captain Spirit. Like, I'd be interested to see if we get that. But beyond that, there wasn't really anything that I see them bringing to the Switch, and there's nothing announced. It would have been great. They don't even have to bring Final Fantasy 15 to the Switch. Just port one of the other Final Fantasies over. Like,
well, we didn't get they're not bringing Kingdom Hearts over.
Yeah, that's a huge letdown.
Super disappointing.
That's a huge letdown. But I mean, all the Kingdom Hearts stuff that's come out previously on Nintendo consoles haven't been core games, though. They've all been the half style games and the
I don't
and the
care. I want 3. Put it on our platform.
Well, I mean, it's the same. It's probably the same reason why. And we'll jump. I'm jumping ahead to a different company here. Of course, this was shown during Sony, I believe, anyway. But you had Bandai Namco show off their Jump Force, and according to them, it's too intensive to bring to the Switch. So maybe there's something.
Let's talk about that right now, because what in the hell is possible? Like, how is that a thing? You can if Doom or Wolfenstein 2 can be brought over to the Switch.
Yeah, but
I mean, you've seen Doom. Doom is freaking amazing.
Doom is good. I actually played a little bit of it this weekend, but I can see we don't know what engine Jump Force is using. We don't know what engine they're planning on bringing.
I don't know that matters. I think you have to gimp it a little bit to make it run. You're talking about a whole platform, so you're just going to not program games for that platform.
Well, they're just not programming games for that platform at all. I mean, we have Square games, and Octopath Traveler is a Switch exclusive.
Yeah, I know, but look at that compared to, you're talking about a brand new IP that they can build from the ground up, when there are going to be people that are, like me, very upset about the fact that KH3 is not coming to the Switch. It's a game that probably most Switch owners are just super disappointed about. I can't see it. I can't see it happening any other way.
I feel like KH3 not coming is a little bit expected. For most people, I feel like that. I feel like it may come eventually. I think the letdown for most people when it comes to Kingdom Hearts is that we're not getting ports of the original games. Like,
well, that too. I mean,
yeah, that's what I don't understand, is why they're not going to give us a bundle that has Kingdom Hearts 1, 2, 2.5, 2.8, all that stuff. Like, that feels more at home on Switch. Give Kingdom Hearts players something on the Switch. And
here we will be devoid of Kingdom Hearts.
Yes, for now. I don't think it's forever, but they weren't giving me the warm and fuzzies when it came to it.
No, and by the way, so if we want to talk and link a couple of these pressers that happened, the Square Enix one was such a letdown for multiple reasons, right? But it was also a letdown just for like Square fans because Microsoft spoiled the Kingdom Hearts one.
To be fair, Kingdom Hearts was shown at just about every single Bethesda may as well have shown Kingdom Hearts. It was shown everywhere.
Limited run.
Yes, limited run shows some Kingdom Hearts. No, Kingdom Hearts is a big thing for all of them. Except for Nintendo.
I know that, but it would have been great for it to be a big thing for the Switch too.
I get what you're saying, and I do feel bad that we're not getting Kingdom Hearts stuff now. Especially, I was never a huge Kingdom Hearts fan. I have the games on PlayStation 2. I've never really dove into them, so I wasn't the biggest fan of them. I'm not saying they're bad games. I'm not saying I'll never play them. I do own them, and I bought them when they were new. I saw friends playing it and they just didn't capture me right away, but I do feel the same letdown that you have over them not coming to Switch. I feel like they should. I feel like it's a platform that is perfectly suited to Kingdom Hearts, especially considering the kind of players who have Kingdom Hearts. The demographic of Switch players, it coincides really well with Kingdom Hearts.
Yes, it does. I mean, Nintendo and Disney is kind of like a match made in heaven.
Mm-hmm.
And then on top of that, the game just looked really good with all the additional content. And I don't like Frozen, but I do appreciate them sticking one of their most popular IPs in as well. On top of all that, like Monsters, Inc. was going in that.
Mm-hmm.
There's a little cameo from Ratatouille. I thought that was amazing. This is the first time.
Some Tangled. Tangled was in there.
Yeah. This is the first time that Pixar properties were going to go into this. And if there is anything that just makes me want to play that game even more, it's the fact that they're going to use some Pixar stuff in there. So I guess I'm super disappointed. I would have loved to explore those worlds on the Switch, and I am not compelled to go out and buy another platform just to do that. So I'm going to have to hang back and wait and see what happens.
Well, I'll play it live over Discord so you can hear me enjoying it on my PS4.
Your time is limited. Speaking of limited.
Oh, you forced that segue in.
I did, and it's sticking, including all this banter. Up to this point, all we had was a title here, a title there, nothing earth-shattering. But if you're an indie fan, LRG has got you covered this year. Josh and Doug announced a whopping 8, and I'll explain that in a minute, a whopping 8 Switch games being brought to physical media, starting off with Golf Story coming in September of this year. Now, Golf Story was perhaps one of the earliest hints, if not the earliest hint, that they gave months and months ago, saying that they had a release that would be a hole-in-one, quote. I know a lot of folks, including myself, are looking to get their hands on this golf RPG from Sidebar Games, and I've held off playing it, anticipating its arrival in physical form.
I'll get into my Golf Story stuff here in a minute, because I'm not going to be like you and ignore the campy cheesiness of their presentation.
I wanted to get to that eventually.
It was
I just wanted to get to the games first.
It was so good.
No.
Okay.
I'm going to go on record right now. No, I'm going to go on record right now and completely disagree with you.
It was so good. No,
it was terrible.
Josh,
terrible. I know what they're
Josh,
going for.
Doug, you guys know who your favorite is. It's okay. I'm down with what you were doing. Obviously, he's not, but I got you. And
I know what they were going for. I saw it. I understood it. The problem is when you go for something like that, you need some high production values, and there were none.
That
not
was
a
the
single
point.
one.
That was the whole
audio,
point.
The audio needs to be nice in that case. You have to be able to hear and understand exactly what they're saying. When you make a parody or something like that, where you are riffing on like a retro style, and you're trying to kind of make it look like it's that, you either need to, have certain things be really high quality and certain things not, or you really need to go over the top. And it wasn't like that. It wasn't terribly over the top.
Okay, so I'll agree that it would have benefited from some lavalier mics. I'll agree with you there. But
yeah, I mean, it was basically
so good.
No,
it was so it was so bad that it was good. I don't know. No, you cannot argue this point to me. It was so bad it was good.
No, and I think we've seen plenty of the arguments in the Discord back and forth going the same way, where half the people are saying no, it was bad. It wasn't bad good. So I think that it's very telling that it's split the audience so much. You're talking about a group that generally agrees in principle on a lot of the things that LRG does, and this was not one of them. This split the audience.
I will get a list of those people to you guys, so you know who to give the.
You keep talking to Josh and Doug like they're there.
Because I would love
for one of them, without you reaching out and telling them this, or any of the other listeners telling them this, I would love for them to independently reach out to me and say, yes, I do listen. They're not listening to this.
No, they're probably not, but
they're far too busy planning their next shitty video.
And you're going to be right there to watch it multiple times and eat it up, and you know it.
Probably, but not for the same reasons as you are. So the second game that they showed off was Layers of Fear Legacy from Bloober Team. And that will be one of the few horror games that we've seen announced for the Switch. I mean, there's some, but now I'm not a big fan of horror games, but this is coming in October, appropriate for Halloween. What are your thoughts on this game?
I have been looking forward to Layers of Fear from Limited Run since I started buying Limited Run games. Like, I looked at the wiki that had...
Oh, you mean yesterday?
You caught me. No, so I've been buying Limited Run games since around Night Trap. And...
For the Switch.
For the Switch, you caught me. So, but...
I could do this all day long.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you have the energy. So I've been looking forward to this. I looked at the wiki to see what games they had in the pipelines, and Layers of Fear was on there. Momodora was on there. Those are games that I really look forward to. Of course, we got Momodora back when Thimbleweed Park came out for order on their website. So I got that. And now I'm getting Layers of Fear. But not only am I getting Layers of Fear, but I'm getting it for my preferred platform, which is
the Virtual Boy.
Yes, if Josh, call me Virtual Boy and Pogs. We'll do it. No, so I'm looking forward to it. Like this has been one that I've been waiting for, and it's coming out on my preferred platform. So it's gonna be great. I think Layers of Fear is a good game. I have it on PC. I've watched plenty of people play it. I don't know the difference between Layers of Fear and Layers of Fear Legacy. If there is a difference, I'd have to look into it a little bit, but the Layers of Fear game itself is good. So if Legacy is a different game or a side mission or side quest or whatever, I have just as much faith in it as I do the original game. So I'm looking forward to it. I wish we would get Outlast physically, Red Barrels, but Layers of Fear is a good starting point to get some good horror games on there. We have a couple coming down the pipeline, but Layers of Fear is one that sticks out to me. And like I said, the only one that would be better for me would be if Outlast 1 and 2 came out physically, because they are on the eShop. But
I'm glad you have something to hold on to.
Yeah.
After that, we saw LRG announce Thumper from Drool, due on July 20th. So it's coming quick. Thumper is a really unique rhythm game that I cannot wait to play. You guide this bug-like vehicle on rails through a track, and along the way, pressing various buttons and combinations to stay on course. The soundtrack is obviously one of the aspects of this game that puts it on the map. Hard-hitting beats, great rhythms. I look for this to be an extremely popular pickup.
Yeah, it seems that games that are music based seem to be pretty popular on the Switch, because we got Just Shapes and Beats coming out. We have Musinks coming out. We have Dimension Drive, which we'll get to later, from East Asia Soft coming out. We have Exonic that's already out. So those rhythm based games, music based games are really popular on the Switch. Thumper is one that I kind of expected, but it's
different.
Yeah,
it's not like the other.
Yeah, no, they all have their own little quirks that make them unique. So
yeah, but I'd say games like Super Beat, Musinx, Voez, they're all still pretty much the same. Oh, tap these buttons kind of along with the song. It doesn't really put a different twist on it too greatly, whereas Thumper is kind of different, kind of unique.
Yeah, and I get that. It's but like I was saying, it's just rhythm games tend to do really well on the Switch. I think it's a good fit. It was one that I kind of expected, but I am happy that it's coming to the Switch. I will definitely give it a shot. I used to really like rhythm games back in the day. I'm not the hugest fan now that I'm older and my coordination is a little bit off, but I'll give it a shot.
Next up was a game that took some people by surprise, not because it was being delivered physically, but because LRG put it up for sale on their website in the middle of the press conference. Oceanhorn, Monster of the Uncharted Seas from FDG Entertainment and Cornfox & Bros, will be distributed by LRG, but is not a part of their numbered series. The first 5,000 copies ordered will likely have theirs shipped real close to about the time this podcast is released, if not before. Pre-orders will be open for 1 month, and there will be no collector's edition for this one. When this was announced, I was actually at work and had the conference up on my phone, and I had to put it in a split screen mode to order the game right then and there. Oceanhorn is a bit Wind Waker-esque, so I hope to get some enjoyment from it, since it's, again, a title I haven't purchased while hoping for a physical release.
Yeah, I didn't buy it when it was out. It came out on the PS4 by them, but it wasn't through Limited Run then. It was actually done by Limited Run then. So I didn't get it then. I'm happy that I've got it now, because it was kind of one of those titles that, in hindsight, I feel like it's one that I would have enjoyed, and I kind of feel like I missed out buying it before. So it was a neat little gotcha that they had there, because I don't think anybody was expecting that. I know the Discord blew up when they were like, "Oh, it's up on the site. It's time to go get it." And so it was quite the surprise, and a welcome one at that. I was also at work when they announced it, but I didn't have to split screen my phone because I was at a computer.
The fifth game in the conference from LRG to hit physical media is Cosmic Star Heroine by Zeboyd Games. This looks like it might be right up my alley. It's a sci-fi pixel art JRPG and is being ported over by LRG's in-house development crew, and Limited Run says that it's coming in August.
It looks interesting. I've not really dove too much into it. It's an RPG, so I'm definitely interested in that, because RPGs are slowly becoming my preferred genre.
Yeah. This is a me thing.
Yeah.
This is definitely a me thing. Like I know for sure that I will want to play this.
It reviewed decently well. The Steam version has got good reviews. It got a 6 out of 10 at a GameSpot, but at the end of the day, that's GameSpot. Metacritic gives it a 76%, which is nothing to scoff at, because it's still decently high in the grand scheme of things. But it got a 9 out of 10 on Steam, and that's mostly user driven. So those are the ones that I would really trust the most.
Yeah, I think it's going to be kind of a neat little release that they're going to throw in there. Obviously, it won't be the only game in August, but that'll be kind of cool. So the other August release, that's yet another of the bigger names, Yooka-Laylee from Playtonic Games. This open world platformer has been requested by a bunch of people for a physical Switch release. I've personally not played this, and I want to give it a go.
I've not played it, but I have played the spiritual predecessor of it, which is obviously Banjo, the Banjo-Tooie and Banjo-Kazooie games. So I've played those, and obviously this is a new take with updated graphics and better physics, stuff like that. So it's gonna be enjoyable. I think the people who really are looking forward to this game are the people who've already played it before, mostly. So I think it's gonna do well. But you're right. It had a lot of people have been asking for this game for a long time.
There were thoughts from some people that it was going to be SRG to land.
Yeah. There's been some hints and rumors that SRG was signing it, but I know that whenever it got mentioned, there'd always be people who are like, "Did they?" But turns out LRG has it. So
the final title announced during the E3 conference proper was Dust, an Elysian Trail by Humble Hearts. I'm super excited to see this, like really, really excited. I've wished for this to come over to a Nintendo platform for ages, and I can't wait to see it on the Switch. Gimme Fidget now.
Yeah, this is a beautiful game. It's a beautiful game. It's I believe it's an award-winning game. This is going to be a good seller. It's gonna do well. I think it's right up there in terms of like cult following status, sort of like Thimbleweed was. There are people who are extremely overjoyed that this game's coming. So.
Oh yeah, I'm included in that. Dust is a beautiful game. So, and it plays really well. So I can only imagine having it on the Switch like that with a physical cartridge is going to make me squee.
We will need to record that and include that in a later podcast.
Now, we also learned during the conference that Night Trap is going to end up for sale on July 6th. And I had a quick conversation on the Discord because of the irony of the game being rated by ESRB for Nintendo platform. And Doug from LRG has confirmed that it has received a T for teen rating from the board.
So this will be the first physically published Night Trap that has an ESRB rating on it after the whole court hearing and the establishment of the ESRB as a result of this game in Mortal Kombat back in 93. So that's kind of ironic. And what's even more ironic to me is that Howard Lincoln, who was representative of Nintendo at the time of the trials, said that Night Trap is not now and never will be available on a Nintendo system. And here we are.
You like it now. Exactly.
So, I can't.
That was interesting. And it's T. It's T for tame is really what it should be, because the game in today's society, especially, is not even that. It wasn't even that bad back then. It just had a theme of being a little
risque,
weird, or I mean, there's really nothing in the game that merits a rating beyond a T for teen.
Yeah, so I think the campiness behind it and the thought that it was invoking a rape vibe is kind of what led them down the path they went. But by today's standards, it is extremely tame.
Earlier, I had mentioned about 8 announcements, so I'm going to get to that here. So the last thing was a little after the conference was over. Doug had invited folks via Twitter and whatnot to come check out their Twitch stream. And he was playing a game that they've now announced for July 22nd. Kingdom New Lands by Noyo and Raw Fury. Kingdom is a 2D pixel art strategy / adventure game. And from what I can tell, you are a king or a queen on horseback, can move left and right, you gather coins, and can explore while your kingdom is built. And at times, your kingdom is attacked by invaders or various kinds, and you and your serfs have to go defend it. It's a bit quirky. I watched them play it a little, but I'm sure I'll give it a go. I'm just not quite sure what to make of it yet.
I know people in the Discord who are saying this is going to be like the third time they've bought the game. The game reviewed really well. It's got like 3,200 reviews on Steam. Is sitting at a 9 out of 10 and a 4 out of 5 on Microsoft. So this game is well received. I can't see it not. I can't see it not doing well on Switch at all. It's gonna do well.
Yeah. And as we're wrapping up discussion with LRG, I just have to reiterate there was a terrible, terrible quality press conference.
So get off your high horse.
No, I just on the super, super off chance that Josh or Doug are actually listening. I mean, the reality of this is that outside of the production quality, which is, for better or for worse, outside of that, I really honestly feel that they knocked their press conference out of the park as far as what they were announcing. If you're a collector, especially if you're a collector on the Switch, there is maybe no better press conference than what we saw from them.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. When the conference started and I saw the A86 Torino and heard the Initial D soundtrack, I was immediately entranced. So I don't care what you say. The press conference was great. The sound quality may have been bad, but it was great. I don't care.
Hey, over here, I'm dangling my keys.
Fight me. PvP 1v1 IRL right now.
Shiny. Right here, shiny. All right, moving on from Limited Run, it was followed up by Ubisoft, or Ubisoft. Now, Ubi opened their press conference with a massive song and dance number for Just Dance 2019, which is, of course, the Switch is getting. So is the Wii, in case you're wondering.
Yeah.
The Wii.
It's coming.
They'll probably keep producing that damn game until 2030.
It's coming to every platform except for the PS3. Yeah. It's even coming to the 360.
Now, aside from that, it does look like Ubi is bringing a Trials game to the Switch as well. Trials Rising is currently scheduled for February of 2019, although they're having a beta access program, which will be only available via the PS4, Xbox One, and PC, of course.
Yeah. We're used to getting the short end of the stick here. At least we're getting something, I guess.
Yeah. Now, the third piece of Switch-related content was Starlink Battle for Atlas, coming on October 16th. Now, there's been a starter kit for the Switch put up for order that includes, and I don't even know if I can believe this because I think this is the coolest thing, Fox McCloud and the R-Wing fighter. This is probably one of the biggest surprises for me, and it'll be really interesting to see how that works.
There were people in the Discord that were talking about, I'm going to wait for this game. It's Toys to Life. I'm going to wait for this game. And I'm like, no. It has an R-Wing. You're going to buy it now.
That's just how it's the R-Wing. Come on. I mean, if nothing more than to have that little R-Wing and Fox out on your shelf. The best part of all of this was that they even brought out Shigeru Miyamoto on stage, and they gave him the first prototype of the R-Wing toy that they made for Starlink. This was essentially and easily the highlight of the Ubisoft presser for me.
Yeah, and then he said thank you in French, I believe.
Yeah. Well, he actually does speak some other languages a little bit. He speaks some English and some French and obviously Japanese. I think he might even speak some other languages a little bit too. But and I think when I was listening, you could even hear him say a couple of things in English during that.
What I gathered from that whole interaction was that Nintendo and Ubi are full steam ahead with their partnership. I mean, we got Mario Rabbids, which is the first time, at least in a long time, that they have loaned out their Mario IP to another company.
In a big way.
Yeah, in a big way. So now we're getting Star Fox loaned out to another one. And it's perfect too, because people were so bitter about the Star Fox game that we got for the Wii U, and like this is not a Star Fox game. This is Starlink, but it's gonna cameo Fox, and I feel like it's going to give a little taste of what Star Fox could be like on the Switch, and maybe down the road we see something more from that.
I think what's more interesting with the way that they're doing this with Ubi is basically merging universes a little bit. It's not just a little bit mixed now.
Yeah, they're meshing really well.
I don't want to jump into Nintendo into that, even though it is the next thing we're going to talk about. But like, how weird and possible is it that we would see another character added to Smash that would be a Rabbid or multiple Rabbids? Like, doesn't that seem possible?
I think it was kind of expected, and it didn't happen at E3. Honestly.
Yeah, we can talk about that in a second, but it just basically seems like, well, there's still room, basically. We don't know everything yet. There's still probably a surprise or two out there for that.
And there's already 65 characters on.
I know, but I can just see that there's probably more than that coming. But I'm getting ahead of myself here. So, but let's start talking about Nintendo, because this year Nintendo brought us a direct for E3. So first up, and what an opening. The mech battle action with Demon X Machina from the Japanese studio Marvelous Entertainment, coming in 2019. The visuals on this in-game footage are simply breathtaking. And this is being produced by Kenichiro Tsukuda, whose previous work included Armored Core 2 and 3 on the PlayStation 2. So I can't help and think that this is going to be amazing.
Yeah, it looks really good. I didn't catch a whole lot of it at E3. I think I was busy working on some stuff at the time, and I was kind of in and out of Nintendo's conference. But from what I saw, it does look really, really interesting.
Visually, what a way to open, though. Like, they started off strong, right? Like, this was the first thing that they did as soon as the direct logo was gone from the screen, and they're hitting you with these incredible looking mechs. So I thought, as far as like opener, this was grand. This was fantastic.
Yeah, definitely. No, they came out swinging.
Now, next up after that, brand new Xenoblade Chronicles content for September of 2018. Xenoblade Chronicles 2 Torna, the Golden Country. We've seen the listings for this come up all over the place, and it's definitely caused confusion. After some back and forth on the Discord, I think we've figured it all out. Maybe. The new product listing seems to be a physical cart that contains the Torna expansion, plus it would contain a code for the remaining expansion content if you happen to have the original XC2 game. Now, that's just the retail box, because if you own the original and you've already bought the expansion pass, you get Torna as a download anyways. So, but again, these listings aren't really clear, and they slightly differ in different countries. So there's not really a great way to see this until we get some other confirmation. I guess that's what we're going to go with. This is what we think we're getting.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's kind of like a teaser to get people to buy Xenoblade Chronicles 2 if they don't already own it. Because it's cheaper, and it gives you kind of a feel for how the game's going to play. And then if you play it, you can be like, oh, maybe I would enjoy Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and I just so happen to have a code that's going to unlock all the DLC anyway, so I may as well go ahead and buy it. I think that's what's going to boil down to.
I was also looking at another way of looking at that was if you bought the original game but didn't buy the expansion pass. This is also another kind of like, hey, here's this extra game, and you didn't buy the expansion pass, so we're going to sweeten this pot a little bit and, throw these extra chips in. Boom. Now you get both. So, that's another way to look at it. You're at the store, you're walking through, you see a new XC2 box up, and you're like, what is that? And oh. So there's like another game. Oh, okay. Oh, and it comes with I've already got the other one. So you kind of, you might catch some people with that I think this is marketing at its finest, basically.
Yeah, I think they're doing really well with that. I think it's gonna entice some people to buy it. I know that from a collector standpoint, anything physical is good, but this is definitely designed to get people either back into XBC2 or on board with XBC2 to start.
Yeah. Now, Reggie took the screen next and spoke a bit about the Pokemon Let's Go games. He even showed off the new Pokeball Plus that we talked about earlier, and that they're throwing Mew into every Pokeball Plus, which is pretty cool. Listings for Let's Go Pikachu and E3vee, each bundled with the Pokeball, had popped up on Best Buy for $99.99 retail. So I grabbed one. I know you said you grabbed one of those. I'm not going to buy both at the package deal with the Pokeball, because who needs more than one of those?
No, are you kidding me? I need 6.
You got to catch them all, right?
Yeah. There is a little side note though, that Amazon had initially listed them improperly, so they were up for $99.99. But if you had Prime, you could get them for $47.99. And they quickly got that taken down. But it seems like they did it twice. And there are some people in the Discord who did get it. I'm pretty sure, I think Welch got it for sure.
And congratulations if you did, because that's a nice chunk of change savings.
Yeah, that's the cost of the game by itself with the Prime discount.
Now, I would say that I was blindsided by what was next. I guess I hadn't thought of it. The next game in a long line of Mario games for frenemies, Super Mario Party. Now, this looks like it's going to include a really cool pairing up of multiple switches.
You can't see it.
Where
you can't see it, but I got my arms in the air because I called this, baby. I called this.
So you can lay the switches out on a table in however you want to have them next to each other and do a battle, organizing the screens how you want. So the way that they did this was kind of neat because it makes sense. You lay them out how you want next to each other in some format, whether it's end-to-end, staggered, L-shaped, whatever. And then you saw one of the players reach across and swipe a line across both Switch screens, basically showing the Switch how they were oriented, because that's an easy way to do that. And then they proceeded to play the little tank battle. There was also showings of baseball, a tricycle race, cooking, and tons more. And all of this is coming on October 5th of this year. Super Mario Party.
This is a reboot of the series too. So they're going back to the root of it. Everybody is moving individually on their own on the board. There's no more riding in a car where one person rolling the dice makes everybody move. We're going back to the original. And they have announced that there's going to be online play. I don't know how it's going to be done exactly. Obviously, not every mini game is going to be able to be supported that way, but they have said that there's going to be some form of online play.
And depending upon how they implement that will sort of determine how much this gets played on the Discord. If it's just like a really crappy version, I would bet you it dies out in a couple of weeks and that's it. But if they do this right, if we have a way to play with multiple people, I could see this becoming a long time staple.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. This is definitely one of those.
You wanted to say absolutely, didn't you?
No, that's your word. This is definitely one that the Discord can play together very easily for a long time. If it's done right, I feel like the game itself is going to be done right. If the online is done right, I feel like this is one that we're going to be playing for a while.
That's kind of where I'm at with it. It's really, this is all going to hinge. The success of this game as far as community is concerned is all going to be on how they implement the online play.
Absolutely.
After that was a brand new and proper Fire Emblem. So Fire Emblem 3 Houses. A true tactics FE is finally arriving on the Switch, and this looks like it's going to be fun. It's coming to the Switch in spring of 2019, which is one of the games a bit further out on the agenda from this direct.
Yeah, Fire Emblem is not... How can I put this delicately? Fire Emblem is not a game that I enjoy, and I've tried.
That's fair.
I've tried playing Fire Emblem. I own it for the 3DS, but it's just not there for me. I just don't know. I hope it does well. I'm going to buy it. I will try it, but it's just not there for me. Obviously, Fire Emblem Warriors is a completely different game.
Oh yeah, warrior style game. Yeah, not at all.
There's no comparing that. But Warriors is more in line. And I'm not a huge Warriors fan, Dynasty Warriors fan either. But FE Warriors would be kind of more enjoyable to me than a core FE game. But I'll give it a shot. I'm not writing it off. Obviously, it's a good game series because it does well and people are demanding it. So I'm not going to take away from it. But it's just, right now, it's just not the kind of game I really enjoy. So this isn't one that I'm on the edge of my seat to play. It's one that I'm going to play just because, I guess.
Well, I'm really interested in seeing how they employ the gameplay on the Switch and if they're going to use some more of the touchscreen on there, because I think, a tactics game is ripe for touchscreen, right? You can move pieces around really easily by just kind of clicking on them and tapping in another spot and doing it that way rather than moving the little stick around and trying to do that. It's sort of natural for a game like this. So I hope that they employ it that way. I like tactics games quite a bit. My favorite, though, is back on the Genesis, the Shining Force series. Shining Force 1 and 2 were incredible, but it's, Fire Emblem is still an amazing series. So
that Shining Force is a stakeout for a lot of people that I've talked to.
Yeah. So up after that was Fortnite, which we knew was coming. It was available for download the day of. And even though we knew it was coming, that was a nice thing to see.
I'm not a huge Fortnite fan. Like,
Nor am I.
I like battle royales, so don't get me wrong. I'm really digging what Hi-Rez is doing with battle royale right now, or realm royale, excuse me. So I do like battle royale games. I've got a ton of hours in PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds. I'm gonna put tons of hours in realm royale, I'm sure. The Fortnite, the gimmick behind Fortnite is the build mechanic, and I just can't. I'm not good at the build mechanic fast enough and precise enough to be really good at the game. I don't think I'd be relying so much on my squad or my duos partner. So it's not a game for me. I understand the appeal. The game makes something like $200 million a month in microtransactions alone. So it's obviously a very popular game. Some people are saying it's on the decline now, but the Switch is only going to elongate that anyway. So a lot of people in the Discord are playing it. Like, we have a dedicated community for Fortnite in the Discord right now. So much so that we had to actually create a voice channel just for Fortnite.
And there are 3 people playing right now in that channel. So we know that there's an appeal, and it's not for me either. I tried it out on the PC and I was not into it. And I like certain aspects about the idea. This is not for me. So
yeah, stuff like a fully destructible environment is really good. But yeah, outside of that, the game was lackluster for me.
So after that, Reggie came back on screen again and introduced Overcooked 2 from Team 17. That's coming in August. Killer Queen Black from Bumble Bear Studios was up next after that. 2 Teams of 4 is actually coming later this year. So I thought that was neat, those couple of titles.
Yeah. Well, we're getting close to a title that I am super excited for, and one that I've been talking about for a while. So let's keep on going.
Hollow Knight?
Do what?
Hollow Knight?
No. Now, Hollow Knight is a welcome surprise. Well, not really a surprise, but Hollow Knight is a welcome addition to the eShop. But that's not what I'm talking about.
So what are you talking about?
I'm talking about Dragon Ball Fighter Z coming to the Switch.
See, that's not on my radar at all. And I know you're a fan.
Yes. It's how's it not on your radar? You are a fighting game enthusiast.
I don't really like Dragon Ball games, to be honest. I appreciate them, and I've played them, and there's been a couple that were like, hey, that's pretty cool. But
okay, so here's the thing.
I know you're a big fan.
Here's the thing. They are streamlining the controls for the Switch. They are adding a different mode that will make comboing and stuff easier on the Switch. So on top of that, we have a release date for Japan, and they said that when the game comes out, and I believe it's September 27th, they said when the game comes out that it's going to be packaged with the original Dragon Ball game that was out on the Super Famicom back in like 93. So they're porting that to the Switch for the Japan release.
Yeah, but do you think there's a chance, a snowball's chance in hell, that we see that come over in the US that way?
Probably not. You're right. Probably not. But it's still support. Like, it's crazy that they're doing this for the Switch. Like, the Switch is getting stuff that the other platforms don't have, and it's nice to see. And then, you may not like Dragon Ball games, but this one is going to be, I feel like this one's going to be really good for the Switch.
And I'm happy for you.
They've also announced, semi-unrelated to E3 because it was after E3, but they did announce like some more stuff for the Dragon Ball games, Xenoverse 2 as well, but that was after E3. It's going to be great. The new Extreme Type mode has making it so that beginning players can play against veterans because putting moves into combos is going to be a whole lot easier. And they're going to have early access to Super Saiyan Blue Goku and Vegeta, which is...
See, to me, Dragon Ball is all charge, no attack.
It's not the way. Dragon Ball Z Super Butoden is what's coming from the Super Famicom.
I guess that part is really cool. I like the idea of them doing that, but I guess I'd prefer a different game. Speaking of different games, there's still more on the radar here. Hollow Knight, as I had said, was shown off from Team Cherry, and of course, everybody was waiting for that to come over to the Switch. And it's going to include all the DLC and is available on the eShop day of. So I can't wait to see who locks this particular one down for a physical release, and I'm probably going to hold off. I don't know. It depends. I think I've got enough to keep me busy to wait for a physical on this, and I know that there's going to be publishers banging down their door to do that. So
yeah, Hollow Knight's got the following of the demand to get a physical release. I don't see them not doing a physical release. Honestly, it's like Shovel Knight. Everybody is expecting a physical release of Shovel Knight also, so people are waiting on that. And then the people who really want to play it now are just going to buy it twice.
After that, they showed off Octopath Traveler again, and they talked about the new demo again. Now, I just don't think, because I played the early demo, as I'm sure most people did, and I really want to wait for the whole full experience. I'm not going to play the new demo. I don't want to spoil anything else. I want to just wait and play the whole game.
I feel like if the demo, I think it's like the prologue demo. I feel like if the demo save file carried over to the full game when you got it, that it might be worth playing just to kind of give you a little taste of the game and then let you pick up where you left off. But
I don't want that, though. I don't want a little taste and then a break. I want to wait for the whole game, and I want to have the full experience, because more than likely when that game comes out, everything else I'm playing gets shelved.
Yeah, well, good thing it's coming out after Battle Crasher or Battle Chasers ended then, huh?
Yeah, exactly. After that, Reggie basically was done, and we were treated to, more games that we knew were already coming. Some of them had already arrived, some that hadn't gotten too much attention, that type of thing. But then they turned the focus to Shinya Takahashi out of Nintendo Japan. And Takahashi spoke a little bit about development and the love for seeing people take out their Switches to play, and that it was time to look at something familiar. And the biggest thing that we saw, Super Smash Brothers for the Switch. They unloaded on us. They took out the fire hose of Super Smash Brothers information. First off, it's going to be titled Super Smash Brothers Ultimate. And there's a big reason for that. Every single freaking fighter, every single one from all previous Smash Brothers is in the game.
Yeah, that includes Cloud and Solid Snake and Bayonetta.
All of
them.
They're all there. There was so much going on in this reveal. Many of the fighters will be unlocked through play. They are bringing 8-player battles back. Final smashes are going to be faster. Some characters are going to trigger slow-mo. Special gauges are going to start to appear next to the character avatars so that you can see them easily. Daisy is going to join as an Echo Fighter of Peach.
They are going all out. I'd be interested to see if they're going to add some sort of story mode into it, because that's something that a lot of people are clamoring for. They want the little mini games, like breaking all the targets and stuff like that, back. So I'll be interested to see if they're going to add stuff like that in. But the game is shaping up to be a massive undertaking. We also got a release date for it, which is December of this year. So
December 7th.
Yeah, so it's going to be this year, which is something else that we kind of called. A lot of people were saying Smash isn't coming this year, but we kind of called that. So I'm kind of happy that's paying off, considering some of the other stuff that got bumped into next year. But this is I feel like it's going to be a really good game for the community to play. I think having 8-player battles and stuff is going to be really fun for the Discord community and just all the player base at large, I think. I
agree. They showed off some of the Inkling, various weapons from Splatoon being used. I'm sure there's going to be plenty of people looking to play as both Inkling boy or girl. The Squid Sisters are coming in as an assist trophy. They took they really took the time to go through a ton of individual character changes. They talked about techniques, showing things like the directional air dodge, which I think that's going to be awesome and change some of the fighting. They showed off a bunch of the stages that are coming.
They showed off a lot of stuff. They showed off diminishing returns on the blocking. So now you just can't hog block the entire time and turtle, because eventually they'll break through it and tear you up.
And we've all played against somebody like that.
Yeah. So that's a nice little feature they're adding. It's kind of reminisce of Street Fighter and how you get the chip blocking, where it takes a little bit of health even though you blocked.
That's the best way to do it, honestly, because you kind of have to be active. You need the players to be active during that. They talked about how they were going to facelift a bunch of the old stages, which was great. There's going to be some new stages being added, such as the Great Plateau Tower from Breath of the Wild, which looked amazing. Yeah, by the way,
it was constantly being tumbled over and then rebuilt.
Yeah, and how appropriate for a Smash battle is a plateau tower. I mean, yeah, really.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
It's good.
You couldn't have chosen a better platform for that. And then something that I know a ton of people were hoping for, the GameCube controllers will be supported.
That was kind of already figured, though, because they just recently added in support for the Wii U USB extension for the GameCube controller. So you've been able to play games with the GameCube controller already for a while.
But they're putting out new ones out in the store. You can go out and buy
the big thing
a new adapter and a new controller.
They're re-releasing the adapter and the controller. That's the big thing.
Yeah. I'm probably going to end up picking up an extra. I have a controller already, but I need another adapter because the one that I have now is kind of hardwired into my arcade cabinet for playing GameCube stuff right off of that. However, I want one that I can stick on the Switch so I can grab my GameCube controller when it's time to smash.
Yeah, that's going to be they're already up for pre-sale. I'd be interested to see if they're going to do a Super Smash Bros. Ultimate bundle with it, like they did with the Smash Bros. On Wii U, because that's how I got mine initially. So yeah, I'd be interested to see, if they do a bundle, I'll probably get another one. If they don't do a bundle, then I'll just get the game and use what I've already got, more than likely.
Now, right at the end of all this, we found out about a new challenger, one that they said it couldn't be done. Ridley from Metroid was introduced.
Big ass dragon.
And they did it in such a dramatic fashion, too. They had some of the characters walking out on a platform and then, like, in the dark, getting speared one by one.
Yeah, Mario, Samus, and Mega Man.
Yeah, it was fantastic. I love the way they brought them out. So 65 characters, man.
Yeah, 65. And that's just what we know about. Like we have a lot of time between now and release, more. So yeah. they could do a few more, I suppose, like the Rabbids, like we mentioned before. But for now, we got 65, including 2 new ones. If you don't count the Inklings boy and girl as separate, we have 2 new ones.
And I think the reason why I think we'll see more, at least one more, at a minimum, one more. I think we're going to see another character from outside the Nintendo franchises again.
It'd be interesting to see.
Yeah. I think they'll introduce somebody else. That's my prophecy for the day.
Maybe Goku.
You know, that's not outside the realm, but in my thinking, considering how, let's say, hand in hand they've been lately, I still want to root for Master Chief. I think Master Chief is maybe too much of a fit for that.
I think Master Chief is wishful thinking. I think we would get we'd get Altair.
What?
Altair from Assassin's Creed. I think before we get Master Chief, I think we would get somebody like Altair or Ezio.
Why?
Or just because they're so buddy with Ubisoft. Like, it just makes sense.
Okay, but I think they'd throw a rabbit in before they do that.
That's probably true, but I'm saying that before we see Master Chief, I feel like we would see one of the assassins, whether it's Kenway or Connor or Ezio or Altair or any of the new ones that I haven't mentioned because I didn't play any games past the third one. I think we'd see one of them. I would love to see Ezio.
What about Diesel?
Shaq Diesel?
Throw him in. He just had Shaq Fu. Come on.
I don't think Diesel is up to the challenge yet. That and Wired Productions did that. So
I know. I'm just throwing that out there as a joke. Although you got to admit, you'd play him.
I would. I'm sure I would give him a shot. Yeah, definitely. Though, but I feel like in watching the gameplay with the new characters, I feel like Ridley is going to be this iteration's Meta Knight, which is to say,
probably.
when Meta Knight came out initially, he was broken and everybody played him, and it was just people complained that it was unfair. I feel like Ridley's going to be that, at least for a little while.
Probably. They're going to have a little interesting thing. I guess the biggest challenge I can think of out of that many characters is balance. I mean, programmatically getting them in there, fine, it's a lot of work, but how in the heck are you going to balance that many characters against each other?
It's going to be super insane.
Huge challenge, right? It was already difficult. Even on a game like Melee, which is incredible, balance is difficult. It's still you add this many characters. Don't get me wrong. I think I know where they're going with this. Obviously, this truly may be the final iteration we see of Smash, because there's just so much going on.
Yeah. Well, Melee was also out at a time when they couldn't adjust the balance on the fly.
That's true, and we will absolutely see patches for Smash that fix things, which sort of fixes the Ridley issue you're talking about. Yeah. But man, that's a monumental task. Now, speaking of monumental, the amount of time that Nintendo took out of their Direct to dedicate to Smash was out of this world. And I think Nintendo did a good job balancing the Direct with new info and old info, but I can't help but think of all the properties that we didn't see and all the time that was spent on Smash that I'm sure some folks were hoping would go to other properties. I mean, the good news is that we have knowledge that there's other stuff in the works, right? We know that Prime 4 and Yoshi are happening. It's really unfortunate that we didn't see Yoshi here or get an update on Prime, and it sucks that Yoshi's moved out to 2019.
Yeah, we didn't see Bayonetta 3.
Right. Although that's only pseudo Nintendo, right? I mean, that's
Platinum Games.
Not really. Yeah. But
it's Nintendo exclusive, so you would think they'd have something.
It is. And we know it's coming, just like we know the other ones are coming. But we didn't see one blink of any of that stuff.
Yeah, I would say they dedicated as much time to Smash comparatively as we seem to be dedicating to it. So,
well, yeah, but that's only in reflection, right? It's only because there was a lot of Smash to talk about. And I get that, but maybe they should have spread that out a little bit. We've got a long time before Smash is released. They could have given us a little bit of this here, a little bit of there, and showed off where some of the other ones are.
Yeah. No, I feel like with as much information as we have on it, that the release date is kind of far away.
Yeah. So, in your opinion, who won E3?
That's rough. Clearly, it was not EA.
No. Or Square.
Those
are the easy kickouts.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say no to Devolver. And Limited Run technically wasn't an E3 presentation because it wasn't on the E3 channels. Like they did it themselves on their own channel, so it was their E3.
So you're left with Bethesda, Ubi, and Nintendo.
Yeah. Well, I'm also left with Sony and Microsoft. You're not counting. We're not counting those.
Okay. I'm thinking more along the lines of Switch. You can add those in if you want, but I'm really thinking Switch centric. I mean, if you want to go overall, I'd throw out Microsoft was probably the winner overall, but in a weird way, not like the oh my god way. It was just really the massive amount of games that they showed that I think drag them forward to the lead. And then on top of that, the fact that they announced all those new swoop swoop in and buy them indie studios, including Ninja Theory, which is, to me, is sort of ridiculous, taking that away from Sony, because that's bread and butter for Sony right there. But honestly, like if you look at the overall, yeah, I kind of lean Microsoft. However, I'm thinking more Switch.
Okay, so if we're going to include Switch, then I'm going to bring a Limited Run back in, just because when they talked about their Switch titles, they went more in detail than a lot of the Nintendo stuff did. Like Nintendo had a lot of glossing, where they just kind of mentioned a name, showed a little clip, moved on, because they were trying to get to Smash as soon as possible.
They wanted the 20 minutes they were dedicating to Smash.
Exactly. So I think, and then of course the Treehouse stuff afterwards, which is more Smash. So I feel like...
Oh, and by the way, some more Smash.
Yeah, so I feel like I'm going to nix Nintendo out of it just because of how much time they spent on Smash compared to...
And it's not that we don't like Smash.
Yeah. I mean, I love Smash, but they had so many other properties that they just kind of glanced in lieu of Smash when they made Smash the forefront, when I don't feel like it needed to be. It's their biggest title they have coming out this soon.
It talks for itself. But yeah, it speaks for itself. So, there's not, you don't need to run an ad for Smash.
Yeah. So I would say out of all of those, Ubi only really had like a couple things. So I guess honestly, the winner of, from a Switch standpoint to me, if you overlook their presentation of it, I guess it would have to be Limited Run, honestly.
Now, if you took Limited Run out, just ask the tough question: who's your winner? I mean, because I kind of give it to Ubi, which is really weird, even though they only had a couple of things. They eked out Bethesda just a little bit.
No, I think we'd give it to Ubi hands down, just because of the wow factor that came with Starlink.
Yeah. And I kind of give that to you as well. Ultimately, I agree with your choice when it comes to Switch. Limited Run was hands down announcing titles people wanted to see in that way.
In terms of pure content
stuff. Yeah. I mean, it just, the slate that they gave was great. It was fantastic. I joke a little bit. I'm teasing a bit about the production. I get what they're going through, but really the content, the announcements, which is where the beef was amazing. So yeah, in that respect, Limited Run.
Yeah, definitely.
I kind of want to talk a little bit about what we're playing, but I'm going to be honest with you. All the meat about what I want to talk about for that is going to be in a future review. Everybody in the Discord knows, because I pretty much sold everybody into buying Battle Chasers and playing it if you hadn't already.
Yeah.
So I spent over 80 hours in that game over the past month, just working on that game, trying to get 100% as much as possible, get everything done. And I did. And I'm going to talk more about that in a future review.
Yeah, I have 20 or 30 hours into it, and I talked a friend into buying it as well. So definitely. And then what I've been playing kind of goes against the grain of what we normally talk about, because it's an eShop title, and that was Die for Valhalla. And I did a showcase video for that already. It's up on our YouTube. So, which
was fantastic, and you guys definitely should check that out.
Yeah, there's not really much else to say about the game that I didn't say there. It's a couch co-op game by an indie dev studio called Monster Couch, and it's really fun. It's 1 to 4 player local co-op. It's very reminiscent of Castle Crashers.
Right after I finished with Battle Chasers, I was sort of searching, what am I going to play? And I came up with an option. I thought, I didn't get a chance to pop in Owlboy because I was concentrating on Battle Chasers. I'm going to pop that in. So I put Owlboy in a few days ago, and I poured like a day and a half into it ish. Now that was broken up. I didn't solidly play that all the way through. I played a number of hours, went to sleep, got up, played some more hours.
I think I know where you're going with this, and you're going for a rub here.
I know, which is interesting. So Owlboy, don't get me wrong, I enjoyed what I played of Owlboy, but then there was something that was naggingly bothering me about it. At certain points through the game, you lose track of where you are at, not physically on the map. I mean, there's a little bit of that just because the map's rather complicated. But you lose track story-wise of where you're at, where you're supposed to go. And there's not a clear indication in some cases of what that is. So I found myself taking a break, going to sleep, waking up the next day, and then like trying to figure out, where was I supposed to go? What was I doing? And that left me uneasy. So I spent like half an hour traveling around the game, trying to figure out where I was supposed to pick up. Did I forget something? And I'm sure I did. So I didn't really like that aspect. Now the game is beautiful and some of the action sequences were great. I will say there was a couple where what you had to do with the buttons, the complexity of that was a little frustrating because you had to almost memorize a button sequence for a couple of parts of the game. And that, if I'm going to play an action type thing where I'm reacting to something, I'd rather it not be that hardcore of memorize this string of buttons just for this boss. So there's that. When I ran into the wall of that, luckily I was given a notice that, hey, I could pick up Yoku's Island Express. I was like, oh, that looked super interesting to me. So I went out and got it and I popped it in. I hadn't finished Owlboy, but I was kind of done with Owlboy. So I popped Yoku's Island Express in, and holy crap, Yoku's Island Express is an amazing game. And I'm going to tell you right now, in my opinion, I tweeted this out earlier. I think Yoku's Island Express is better than Owlboy, and in more than one way. The hand-painted backgrounds in Yoku's are incredible. It's all the art in that game. And I appreciate pixel art. I really like pixel art. And I thought Owlboy was beautiful. I think Yoku's is better. I think that the other thing that Yoku's just has heads and tails above Owlboy was just actual gameplay, like the action of moving around. So Yoku's mixes a Metroidvania style game of, moving around various parts of the map, backtracking, finding items, that type of thing, with pinball. You're a little dung beetle pushing his dung ball around, and the ball becomes a pinball through huge parts of the game. It's basically like you have a massive amount of pinball tables to play to get through and unlock things and accomplish goals and defeat bosses, which is just incredible. I cannot recommend that game highly enough. Yoku's Island Express is a 9 out of 10 for me, which I was surprised. I'm shocked that I liked it that much. I thought it was super interesting, like a great concept. I wasn't sure I was going to like the game, but damn, this game is phenomenal. And I think you should play it. I think everybody should play this game, whether you like pinball or not, because it's only half pinball. You can't, I've never played one that really combined the elements exactly this way. And so it's got a bit of a unique factor for it. Plus, like I said, visual appeal to the nines on the artwork. They really did an unbelievable job. Now, kind of like Odyssey, like Mario Odyssey, I was able to finish the game itself, the core story, and have a bunch of content left over. You're left still in the world, just like you are with Odyssey. If you want to blaze through the main story as quickly as possible, you could finish this game super fast. But again, like Odyssey, that's not what this is about. It's really about, going around, finding things, doing more stuff, enjoying the challenges throughout the different parts of the map, and really just taking it all in. So yeah, top notch. Go out and buy it.
I've already bought it. I'm just waiting for it to get shipped.
I'm talking to the audience, not you.
You said I should.
Who wants to talk to you?
Well, I'm sorry. I'm here. I'm here.
I tease, but seriously, buy the game if you haven't. It's an experience, and it was surprising. I think that's one of the things that really drives it home for me. One of the things that really drives it home is just how surprised I was by how much I enjoyed it. So I finished the game and was 81% complete. And I spent a lot of extra time poking around before I went back to the main story. I probably could have finished the game at 50%, and still had, a ton of time to put in. And I'm planning on going back and trying 100%.
Those are the fun games to get into, the ones that make you want to complete it.
I think so. It shocked me, basically. But yeah, I'd love to hear from listeners that get a chance to play both. They're vastly different games. I realize that they're two very different games, but just for giggles, if you play both, tell me if you agree with me or not. Now, I will say Owlboy had one thing going for it that Yoku's doesn't really have, and that's a really thoughtful and emotionally provoking storyline. There's a few parts of that game that I was kind of blown away in the same general way that I think a lot of people were with something like Rhyme, where you connect deeply and you're like, wow, that's heavy. Owlboy had some of that. Yoku doesn't really have that heavy of a narrative. It's not that type of game. So props to Owlboy for bringing that.
Right. Yeah, I've got Owlboy already, and Yoku's on the way, so maybe I'll give them both a shot.
One of the games that many of you have been playing is 9 Parchments from Frozenbyte. Cyrix and I had an opportunity to invite Frozenbyte to the show to chat about that and more. Let's have a listen. Today we have a special guest joining us all the way from Finland. Kai Tuovinen, the marketing manager from Frozenbyte, is here. Hi, Kai.
Hey, man. How's it going?
It's going great. How are you doing?
Great as well. Yeah, thanks.
So we thought we'd have you come on and talk to us a little bit about Frozenbyte and some of what you guys have been up to. Can you start by telling us how a group of gaming enthusiasts with no industry experience became Frozenbyte and how that kind of led to the creation of Shadowgrounds, your first game?
Well, yeah, that's a story that takes back many years. So I think like 17 years now, 2001 or something. Maybe even a little bit further than that. But it was like a couple of high school students, Lauri, who is still with Frozenbyte, he's our CEO, and Juha, who is also still with Frozenbyte. We're 2 guys out of high school, basically decided to group up and start making games. And for the first couple of years, it was pretty random what they were doing, but eventually they decided to make it a little bit more professional. The way to do that was to found a company and then start working out of Lauri's mom's garage. So that was kind of the initial setting. And Shadowgrounds, our first game, came like 4 years after that, so 2005.
Awesome. Okay, so after revisiting Shadowgrounds with the Survivor follow-up, Frozenbyte went through a pretty big transition period during the development of what eventually became Trine. Can you talk a little bit about that period?
Yeah, so like first we did the Shadowgrounds games, Shadowgrounds Survivor, and then Trine was kind of a project that started out as a hobby of one of our programmers, Jukka, and it was kind of a 2D platformer with like a medieval setting. It looked completely different from what Trine became, and it was kind of quite dissimilar to what Trine eventually became, but it was kind of the same. Same type of gameplay, but we worked on the project once we saw the potential, and it became kind of transitioned from a hobby project into a Frozenbyte project, which the entire company believed in. So at that point, we poured a lot of people into the project. The art style changed, the gameplay changed to a bit more like to include puzzles, and overall it just got a little bit of redesign on all areas, and as a lot more people started working on it and refined the game into what we now know as Trine.
So I think the Trine series is amazing. I think it's super fun, but to me, one of the most impressive aspects of the game is kind of the amazing visual style. I read that there was a lot of freedom given to the art department. What inspired that decision to give such freedom to them?
Well, I think it stems from the fact that we have amazing artists' talent in the company, and it makes more sense to let them decide what the art of the game should look like rather than make like a sort of corporate decision or anything like that. So we, as a company, and I think every profession, whether it's artists or programmers or whatever, we kind of value the professional, the professionalism or the talent that they have in their specific area of strength. So if it's talking about artists, we know that they're good at what they do, and the same goes for programmers, QA, and everything. So we kind of just thought that it would be good to let the artists roam free and do what they want in terms of the art style.
So Trine was kind of transformative for Frozenbyte, and it had a lot of success. And from its success, you've been able to release a pair of sequels, some DLC, a remastered version of the original, and then you've even set 9 parchments in the world of Trine. Do you expect to continue to expand the world of Trine in the future?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's been on a kind of pause since Trine 3 for a few years now, but 9 Parchments is kind of warming us up to the return of the Trine world, and I expect there to be continuation to the Trine world in all aspects at some point.
Yeah, as Nintendo Switch fans, not only would we love to see the entire Trine series make it to the Switch platform, we think that it would be a great fit for the system, and we would love to have it, to play on the go. But you've probably been asked about bringing Trine to Switch more than you've ever imagined possible. So I'm not going to ask that question directly, but can you instead tell our audience what the biggest obstacles would be to make that happen?
The biggest obstacles to making that happen would be time, resources, because we are building quite a few new games at the moment. So getting people within the company to do the Switch versions of the previous Trine games would kind of be the biggest hurdle, but yeah, it's not something that would be impossible.
So one last question involving Trine. Trine 3 was released on Mac, PC, Linux, PS4. Was there a reason why we didn't see it come to the Xbox One or the Wii U?
The Wii U was kind of lacking a little bit in the power, or it was kind of a hard project to make. Xbox One, I think there was some similar issues, and we hadn't done any Xbox One games before that. So kind of PS4 and PC were the console, and PC itself as platform were the easiest for us to got the game running.
So in between Trine releases, Frozenbyte made its foray into mobile gaming with Splot, and we haven't really seen another dedicated mobile release since. So how did Splot do, and did it have any impact on the future of mobile gaming at Frozenbyte?
It didn't do so well. I mean, it was a premium game in the kind of era where everybody was switching to free-to-play, and it was a pretty expensive premium game as well. And we worked on the game, I would say, for a few years too many. So I would say it was like a couple of years too late for that to be successful. So the result was that we decided not to pursue mobile games for now, at least, and focus on console and PC, which were our strengths to begin with. So that was kind of the story of Splot. It didn't do so well.
The studio headed in a different direction with Shadowin, a game of stealth. This is very different from the action-adventure seen in previous games. So what set the game apart from other stealth games such as Thief or Assassin's Creed?
I think the main mechanic was the time we used in Shadowin. So it was basically paused all the time until you moved. So it's kind of mechanic from, the most obvious game with the same type of mechanic, Superhot. So every time you moved, the time was moving as well. But in Shadowin, you could also rewind the time instead of loading saves or quick saves or anything like that. So you could always rewind your actions and do something differently based on the result of, for example, killing a guard or setting a trap somewhere and seeing how things escalate from that. And then if you did something that didn't work out so well, you could just rewind and try something else. And you could do a lot of experimental moves with that, because there were like traps, like bombs and all kinds of different devices, like a distraction toy. And yeah.
All right. So it somehow feels like Shadowin was a point of maturity in some ways for Frozenbyte. You began branching out a bit more in a few different ways. Was it liberating to release a couple of things that weren't centered around Trine?
Yeah, I mean, it was time to do something different after we released Trine 3. And Shadowin was actually a really quick project, so it was only like 7 months or something from right after Trine 3 to release. So it was kind of training new people and trying something completely different sort of project. So yeah, we're kind of happy to try something completely different, and happy that it was finished in such a quick time. because we needed it at the time.
Kind of along the lines of things that are a bit different, the first game that Frozenbyte released for the Nintendo Switch Has Been Heroes back on the 28th of March in 2017. Can you tell us why you chose that particular game as your debut title on Nintendo's newest platform?
That was kind of the first game that we were working on that was finished at the time. So that was one reason. Well, Nintendo Switch was an obvious platform for the game because it was, I would say, just very suitable for the portable version of the Switch. It's a game that you can play in short bursts and you could take with you. And it was a very good fit for Has Been Heroes to bring it to Switch. And yeah, we were working with Game Trust for publishing Has Been Heroes. So yeah.
So what was it like to essentially be a part of the debut of Nintendo's new system?
It was awesome. Now, yeah, as everything that Nintendo does, we were also part of the Wii U launch with trying to Director's Cut back in the day. So we knew that the launch was always special, and Switch was just it was such a cool console that we were really happy to be a part of the launch. Even though we didn't quite make it to the launch day, but we were in the launch week or so, launch window with Has Been Heroes.
Now, we've had the honor and the privilege of speaking with a few developers and publishers, and they've all been pretty positive when it comes to working with Nintendo on bringing games to the Switch. So how would you compare developing something like Has Been Heroes or Nine Parchments for the Switch from compared to when you brought Trine Enchanted Edition or Trine 2 to the Wii U? Is it completely different, or did publishing on the Wii U prepare you to handle Nintendo with the Switch?
It's quite different. I would say what I heard from our programmers and producers, everything is kind of organized now. It all works. There's documentation. There is people who we can contact and they reply quickly, and all the backend systems, which I also work with, like publishing the game page and all the assets related to the game's marketing, like the videos and banners and everything, and setting up the sales. Those are all very good on the Switch now compared to what they were back in the Wii U. So yeah, we've been very happy with what working with Switch has or is.
I want to kind of go back to Has Been Heroes for a second. Has Been Heroes does at times suffer from criticism from having a difficult battle system. If nothing more, it has a bit of a steep learning curve before players can really begin to progress through the levels. Was it always intended to be this challenging? And what advice would you give to players who may have given up on the game because of the difficulty?
It was always intended to be like a challenging game. There's like no doubt about that. I think what we could have done a little bit better would be a little bit more fleshed out tutorial, but the basic idea of the game was that you die and then you learn from how you died, basically, and then get better as you go, and then you die more and you keep going at it. I think a lot of people might be a little bit confused with the controls at the beginning and, swapping the lanes and what your options are with the lane swapping and what you need to do to defeat the incoming waves of skeletons. So what the most important advice is to look at how many hits your different characters have and then how many stamina points the enemies have, and then try to match those and swap the lanes accordingly so that you can eliminate the enemy stamina exactly and then do damage to them instead of going over the stamina or under the stamina. And, it's the stamina mechanic is the kind of key point that you need to learn in the beginning. And then after that, you can get pretty far with just realizing the stamina mechanic. And then afterwards becomes, using the spells, finding which item to pick for which guy or which spell to take for, so it kind of becomes a little bit more advanced the further you go in the game, but with just the basic stamina mechanic and lane swapping, you can get pretty far.
You sort of mentioned this earlier, and one of the things that I found interesting about Has Been Heroes is that you guys partnered with Game Trust to release it. What went into your decision to partner with them for the game, and can you tell us a little bit about how that might work differently than another publisher relationship?
Well, they visited us at our office, and we had a talk with them on Skype before that, a few years back. And well, we just thought their vision for what they wanted to do with Game Trust was very aligned with what we were looking for in a publisher. So like creative freedom. We also wanted to be able to get our games as a physical edition into stores, and they had a whole infrastructure to do that. And they just seemed like a very cool, chill bunch of people who wanted to publish some smaller indie titles, or do something different than the regular AAA publishing. So yeah, we just kind of clicked with them, and they really liked the early prototype of Has Been Heroes that we had. So it was a great match for us.
We're going to shift over to your other Switch title now, which is Nine Parchments. And I've been playing a lot of Nine Parchments. So it released in December of 2017. The game immediately caught my attention because I have a longtime friend and co-op partner, and we were looking for a good co-op game, considering that I convinced him to buy a Switch in the first place so that we could play games together. So we both tried the demo. He bought the full game immediately. I held out for a reason I'll discuss in a moment, but I will say the game is filled with what some consider, it filled a void that the Switch had, which was 2 to 4 player online co-op. Was this a consideration when the game was being developed, or is it just something that felt necessary as the game started to get fleshed out?
We started developing the game with co-op play in mind, so it was always the beginning, the thought that we would make a co-op game where you play together with wizards and blast monsters and work together with teammates to do that. So it was kind of from the beginning a design decision.
So Nine Parchments is on all modern non-mobile platforms. Have you seen it take off on any one platform more so than the others, or is it about even across the board?
I think it's pretty much Switch on top of everything. So Switch has been the most popular platform by far.
I think we've seen that from a number of different developers and publishers talking about the Switch and how kind of popular that platform really is. So your answer is right in line with what we've seen otherwise.
And I know that on your Discord, it seems that the people who are tagged as being Switch players seem to be the most active in the Discord. I noticed that as well. But the game is remarkable with its replayability. A lot of that is due to things like the moderately short story, multiple characters and character variants, random spell parchments, increased difficulties, quest locked, gilded characters, which once you obtain them, you have the ability to level that corresponding character beyond the initial level cap of 40 to 60. So do all of these features point to what might make it be considered a complete game, or do you guys have more content planned for the future, and will it be free or paid DLC?
Well, what we did with Has Been Heroes was a free kind of DLC, so it's free update with content. So I think that is, well, I don't just think, I know that it's what we're going for. And yeah, it is a complete game right now, but we have more things coming.
Kind of speaking of the multiple characters and variants, do you have stats, or can you share with us who might be the most used or most popular character and variant, and tell us who your personal favorite is, or the favorite among the team?
I don't have any hard stats. My favorite character is the owl, just because he looks cool. Yeah, I would think, based on what I've heard, that Nim is pretty popular because of his steam and then his ability to get a lot of HP with the skills.
I'm a huge Cornelius player myself.
Yeah, I have no actual stats to prove which one is the most popular. But we did a poll back in the day about who is the people's favorite character, but I can't remember which one won. So previously, I said that I held out initially getting the game, and the reason for that is my love for the physical media. And I believe Nine Parchments has everything that players are looking for when it comes to what they want for a physical release of an eShop title. So that said, can you tell us, has there been any interest from publishers, or have you guys considered reaching out to a publisher, whether it's full retail or even one of the limited print publishers like Super Rare or Limited Run? And I understand if you have, and you probably can't name names, but is there something that you can tell us about that? We've had some talks, but nothing is concrete at the moment. So it looks like it'll be only digital for now.
Well, I certainly hope that changes, because I love the game and I love physical media, and I think it's perfect. But so I'll just have to wait and see. But but my final question is, the boss design was pretty rich in Nine Parchments. My partner and I enjoyed discovering all the quirks and boss mechanics and figuring out ways to beat them as a duo as opposed to solo or in a 4-man group. The Hydra was a neat little fight for 2 players. But that said, My question is, who designed the arena and why do they hate solo players? Because it's the second boss, and if you're playing solo and you don't pick a good starter or you don't have good picks for your first parchment, the arena is a huge wake up call.
Yeah. Well, the lead designer is Lowry, who is our CEO. So I think he's like the main designer of the game.
You hit the arena and it's just like if you're playing solo, it's like, haha, you should be in a team now. You get to deal with this.
Yeah, I just saw like a clip actually from one of the players who showed me, the fire totem spell.
Mm-hmm.
So that spell is super OP in the Hogmart battle. Everywhere else, it's like a team killer. But obviously, if you're playing solo, you wouldn't have a team to kill. But still, you plant that in the middle of the hogs, and everything just dies. So it's a tip for the players.
Nice.
So before I kind of get to the part where we wrap everything up, I read something. This is nothing about video games, but I read this and I have to ask. I saw, is it true that there are more saunas than people in Finland?
I don't know, but there are a lot of saunas in Finland. Yeah.
It seems like it's unnaturally a lot. Like I saw some stuff about it, and it just seems like people really love their spas and saunas.
Yeah, we do. It's like, well, in the cities, maybe you don't have a sauna in every apartment because you're limited with space. But even here, it's pretty common to have a sauna in your apartment in the city, in like buildings with a lot of different people in it. So everybody has their individual sauna. But of course, I would say even every apartment building would have like sauna in like a general area, if nothing else.
I don't know why that stuck out. I think Finland, from all of the pictures and video that I've seen, it looks beautiful. It looks like an amazing place. You guys have great forests and you have amazing views during various parts of the year. It just really seems like an amazing place. So I hope at some point in my lifetime I get a chance to visit Finland.
Well, thank you. Well, I suggest you visit during the summer. That's when it's nice. In the winter, it's kind of nice, but it's dark, and well, it makes sense in the winter to visit like the north where there's actually snow. The south is kind of not that nice during winter, but summer is definitely cool.
Well, I hope I get a chance to do that. I do want to thank you, Kai, for taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us and talk a little bit about Frozenbyte, talk a little bit about Has Been Heroes and 9 Parchments. Is there anything else you'd like to be able to share with our listeners? Anything about the company or anything that might be happening? Anything at all?
Well, we do have some new content coming up for 9 Parchments, or by the time this is on air, it'll be out.
That's great. I think a lot of people are going to be looking forward to that, and Cyrix is probably one of them.
Oh, definitely. I'm loving 9 Parchments. It's it definitely it checked all the boxes for the kind of game that I was looking for, because I love multiplayer co-op games, and there just wasn't a whole lot of options, and 9 Parchments filled that void entirely for me.
Thanks. That's always nice to hear. Yeah, the thing that we have coming is kind of suited for the leveled up characters in mind, so a little bit more end game.
Well, we would love to have you on again in the future. And again, we thank you very much for visiting us, and we hope you have a wonderful day.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks for having me. Also, have a great day and week.
So we'd like to thank Kai once again for taking time out to sit down with us and answer our questions. And we look forward to seeing where Frozenbyte goes with that in the future. But to move on to the next section here, we have listener questions. And we did get one in from Twitter, and it's from Dakota IRL. And the question is, what would you be doing if the Nintendo Switch was failing? I'll let you answer first.
So this is a question that I actually didn't... Normally I would write an answer up for these questions, but in this particular case, I really wanted to just stew on the question and not prepare for that, because it's a interesting question to me. I think there's a lot of different ways to answer this. If I go down the road of what would I be doing from a hobby standpoint, in the sense that this podcast and YouTube channel are a hobby for me surrounding the Switch. I don't know that there's another platform that I would embrace in the same way. I'll tell you, before the Switch came along, I was very, very heavily connected to the NES and SNES Classic editions. Ran some communities for that that had tens of thousands of people on their subreddit, and at one point we were nearing 1,000 people in the Discord as members, with hundreds active at any given time. Now that stuff has calmed down quite a bit because that's gone cold. So I'm not really sure from that aspect that I would have another system to embrace as heartily. When we talk about just playing games, I'm also an avid PC gamer. And so one of the things that I was in the middle of when the Switch was announced was going through a piecemeal upgrade of my PC. And I had just bought I had just bought a 1080 Ti to pop into my rig. And I went through a Steam sale and loaded up on some games, some of which I'm going to return to and play through when I have a low spot in Switch collecting, which who knows if that's going to happen. But that would probably be where I would have gotten most of my gaming entertainment from at the time. And I would probably have continued my project to beef up my gaming rig a little bit more. I tend to keep it graphically capable. I was coming from a 780 Ti, moving to the 1080 Ti, which still provided a massive boost. And I needed it because I put a ultra wide monitor in, and that's pushing a lot of pixels. So the 1080 Ti really helps keep that going. But yeah, those are the kind of things that I was thinking of for this, is what ways could I answer that? Because, the Switch, if the Switch wasn't going to be what it was, this could be a really short deal. But I don't see that happening. I think the Switch is going to be a long life, very successful platform. Things could change at any moment. Tomorrow Microsoft could say, we were going to wait and, drop this bomb on you next year, but this is what we're doing. And all of a sudden everybody starts fawning over it. Or Sony could come out next E3 and say, we know you guys like this so much, we did our own, and here's that. I don't think that's realistic, but you never know what could happen. But I don't think the Switch is going to fail. I don't think it's failing. I think they're having a little bit of a low spot on console sales right now. And to say that that's a low spot is kind of like a little tiny valley between two mountain peaks. So what about you?
I agree. And that's the end of the show. So
no, you have to spill your guts.
If the Switch had failed, prior to getting into Switch collecting, I was doing random collecting on random consoles. I wasn't really focusing on any one. I was doing a lot of PC gaming and PC streaming and stuff. So I'd probably still be doing that. But as far as collecting goes, I was doing a lot of like pop figures for a little bit, and I think I probably would have continued on somewhat with that. I know that my wallet would probably be a little bit more full if the Switch had failed, but
yeah.
I can pretty much guarantee that this podcast wouldn't exist without the Switch. We're a collector's podcast. And, one day when the Switch is hung up and we move on to the next thing, hopefully the podcast can continue, or the YouTube or something in some form will continue with whatever we move on to after the Switch. But if the Switch hadn't been there to start with, yes, Virtual Boy and Pogs. If the Switch hadn't been there to start with, I wouldn't have joined the Discord. This podcast probably wouldn't have started. So it's hard to say. I imagine I would be playing through more of my library. I have a lot of PS4 games I've never played. I have a lot of PC games I've never played. So I imagine I'd be playing through most of that and probably still collecting pop figures, or if I moved on from that, I'd probably be spending more money elsewhere, more than likely.
It's interesting to see a question like that come across, and thank you at Dakota IRL for that, because to me, that was one of the most interesting questions we have been asked. It's thought-provoking. It leaves a lot to the imagination, and I'd invite other listeners, reach out, hit us on the Discord, mention that you want this question answered on the podcast, hit us up on Twitter, go just however you want to reach out, ask us questions. We would love to be able to answer way more than 1 or 2 per podcast. Cyrix is committed to putting an entire hour towards answering your personal questions about him, where he lives, what he eats, his daily schedule, his commute to and from work in detail. He's committed to that. So go ahead and ask us your detailed questions about his life.
For the right amount of money, I will answer those same questions about Soul.
I don't exist. I'm but a figment of people's imagination.
Oh, if only that were true.
So for the next segment of the podcast, we are now going to list every character that has ever been in Smash.
How much longer do you want this podcast to be?
Okay, fine. We'll call it good then. So thanks for taking the time to listen. As always, I'm Soul.
And I'm Cyrix. And this has been On the Shelf.
Oh, and Lurkin Learner, say my name. You're goddamn right.